Hello there, and welcome to yet another week of Team Draft Super League. I am Marshall Sutcliffe. I am joined by Chris Bakula. Chris, welcome. And yeah, we've got Team Limited Resources, our team versus Team Gamers Help for Gamers. And Chris, team drafting is hard, man. my brain feels like it melted somewhere in the middle of that draft.
Well, let me just start by saying that I'm assuming that we got destroyed.
Okay.
Because yeah, I think we're going to lose very badly.
So, I mean, yeah, we don't want to get into too much detail to spoil any of the stuff about the decks to each other, to the listeners, because we are going to be watching, by the way, Kenji, Egashira versus John Finkel here once they're ready to go. But yeah, man, it's such a whirlwind, for an activity that I do so often, which is a draft, which I can do when I'm watching TV or if I'm just sort of have something else going on and just sort of, I'll take this and man, it's totally different when you're thinking so hard about what the other players can have and how that's going. And you're doing these calculations, on the fly about, well, it's not just how good is this for me, it's how bad is it for you. And that's just a difficult thing to parse in real time, I've found.
Right. Yeah. These packs were so much more. I haven't really done this in a while, especially not with this set. And yeah, I looked at the two drafts from the previous weeks, but the situations that came up for me just didn't come up for people the previous 2 weeks. So I don't know. I don't know if that was something. Yeah, I don't really know why. I don't know exactly what was unique about my packs and why I was so flustered. But I have to go back and think. Part of the problem was I opened a blue rare, which is always scary because you're like, okay, I don't draft blue that often, and blue's kind of a weird. I feel like a lot of times we think that in these last few draft formats, a lot of blue decks are built around rares and uncommons.
Yeah.
Well, it's only a 6-man draft. So how many rares and uncommons are you going to get? And I don't know. I feel like the other archetypes are just kind of easier to cobble together if you really need something. Like if you're playing red-white, you can always play a fling and win a game with it. Like there's no real where you feel like you have situational cards and you get. But I don't know. So and then I get past a green rare, and I'm like, well, blue-green. I never draft that. I never draft blue-green. But I'm like, well, this is a kind of a good start if I want to be in a position to counter draft, because this is the kind of deck that can actually play a lot, maybe play 3 colors, which I actually hate. Well, I actually don't like playing 3 colors in these. I don't think that's like, oh, it's team draft so we can play 3 colors. That's a great idea. Like, I feel like that is something that made more sense. It used to be when there weren't that many playables.
Yeah. That you'd have to do that, but here it's like you said, it's a gradient now. It's like you're playing a 2-drop you'd prefer not to play, but it makes the cut anyway, rather than a card that you're just looking at like this just doesn't affect the board, this just doesn't affect the game in a meaningful way. It's just lesser than you would hope, rather than non-existent like it was, back in the day more. So yeah, and I got to say, from my seat, I'm trying to,
was I passing to you or was I passing to Kenji?
You were passing to me.
Okay, and so you took Gus Walker.
I what?
You took Gus Walker.
I did, yes. And so, for me, it was just like, I've been doing a lot of studying, since I found out we were going to do this. I did what you did. I watched both of the first 2 drafts for the T-Draft Super League from each seat, because there's draft viewers that you can watch it on. And I try to put myself in the brain of the opponent or of the player and say, okay, well, what are they actually thinking about? Why would they make these weird picks when I see the weird picks or not? And then I was running it by my friends who have done a lot of it and said, hey, with this pick, like what would be the logic here? And it's so hard to learn this stuff, because I tell you, half the time I did that, they came back and they said, oh, that's just the wrong pick. They're just like, I don't know what he was doing.
Is that even more so? In some ways, this is more like a sealed deck than, and not in strategy, but draft. The unique specifics of each pack matter way more in this than they do.
Yes, I felt that when I was sitting in there, because I've started to develop some heuristics for this, right? Like, some of these sort of shortcuts that people use about like, well, if there's 1 card in your color and 2 cards in another color, you're often better just to take the card in your color, because you're not going to be able to effectively cut them anyway. And I'm like, oh, I'm smart. I can see that now. But then it's like every pack is so contextual that I'm finding these shortcuts. I'm sort of already trying to leave those in the dust and just try to figure out what's actually going on. But the truth is, I'm not there yet. Like, I need more reps on doing these team drafts before I can feel comfortable sort of offloading that mental load of parsing through those things. And I just can't yet. So I'm like kind of sticking to the heuristics and being like, this makes the most sense to me, so I'll go for it. But like every pick, I have this big question mark floating out over it. And I can't wait to, when we're done, to well, frankly, to get bombarded with feedback about it one way or
another.
Oh,
this is going to be. I'm just dreading this. Like, I don't even want like Ben Stark and Efro to be given access to this draft file.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I'm just coming from a different perspective, having not that much experience. I get to be the guy who says, "Well, I don't really know what I'm doing anyway," and then have people do that. But all right, it sounds like the players are ready to go. So the first feature match, like I said before, is Kenji Egashira versus the GOAT, John Finkel. Let's head down to the feature match area. And welcome back to coverage here at the Team Draft Super League. I am Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth, the virtual booth, as it were, with Chris Bakula. Chris, we're ready for round one here. First team to win 5 matches will take down the draft here today. And we've got the greatest, John Finkel. He's, he's considered the greatest Magic player of all time by most players or many players. Interesting thing about John is that he's also just a limited machine, right? I mean, you figure you can hand him any deck and he'll do well with it, but he's really a limited player at heart, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's just always.
Is he not? I mean, I like every single time you know him better than I do, so feel free to correct me.
I mean, he's just good at everything. I don't know when it comes to Magic. So I don't know if there's. I've been asked about John a lot over the years. And
does it bother you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't bother me. I just feel like people. I think he's just more generically good than people want to act like he is. Like they want to say, "Oh, he's good at this," or "Oh, he's good at that," and I'm not sure. Maybe I just don't parse it the same way other people do. But I don't know if there's one thing he is that isn't just good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'm basing it on the fact that, like, when he has people come over to his place to play Magic and they don't play Constructed, right?
Right. But I think that
looks like Kenji's on 5 here, by the way.
Yeah, he had a no white mana, all white card opener.
Yeah, he's going to have to cycle this Wing Shepherd. By the way, Kenji Egashira, speaking of limited specialists, he's definitely that. He's also just a good Magic player. But, this guy, I mean, he drafts more than almost anybody in the world, probably. I mean, he's in the top 5 or something number of sheer numbers of drafters for every set. He's an absolute machine. He's been doing it since he was a kid. And, look at this. Kenji the genius has Nimble Blade Kenra so he doesn't get Magma Spray. Take that, John. That's right. Oh no, Labyrinth Guardian. Well, game over.
Yeah, that's not the card you see when you're on 5 cards with the red-white deck, especially when you have your 5-drop in your hand. So like,
yeah, he's got the old 4/5.
You ever want to cast your 5-drop, you got to flood out, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he drew a Binding Mummy, so he gets to make a play here, though. That will give John a target for Magma Spray. So John looks like he is in red-blue, which is interesting.
Well, there was a lot of red-white cards in this draft, a lot. And I feel like there's always a lot of red-white cards because that's part of why that's considered to be like the premier archetype of the format is because there's just a lot of cards we've all decided are playable. But even this draft, it felt like, I'm assuming we have 3 red-white drafters.
Well, we've got 1 here, and then John's red-blue.
Right. I assume you're red-white.
Oh, interesting.
And
John cast a Tormenting Voice there, which was actually a pretty nice draw because he didn't have a whole lot going on. Though it is worth noting here that he pitched a land and didn't find another land with it, though he still seems to be in good shape here with a land drop to hit, a 4-drop to play, and then he needs only 1 more land for his Manticore to kind of complete the nice curve out here.
Yeah, he's got another Cycler and a Cantrip too, so.
Yeah.
He's, this is like a.
This is kind of a beating, yeah.
This is a real bummer of a play for Kenji. Like he's not going to be able to attack the turn after this with that thing.
No, he's not, and the warrior won't have any attacks, so
right.
Pretty bad spot here for Kenji. Also, John with a Gale Strike in hand, if his life total ever were to get anywhere near punishable, he could just fire that off, and yeah, this game is not looking hot for Kenji here. He is way behind.
Yeah, this is just you double mulligan on the play, and then your opponent plays a 2-3 for 2, and it's just real tough. I don't know if he has some, and it's hard to dig yourself out of a hole with a bomb when you only have 3 lands, and there.
Well, he just drew his bomb, so
right. So Kenji and Jamie are both playing red-white medium, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and that is the tough part too. About there's different archetypes, right? The red-white deck. On a mulligan to 5, it makes things very difficult. It has a lot of low impact cards that are sort of short-term game, long-term loss type cards, like the cartouche here that he has, and the red cartouche is similar. There's a lot of cards like that in the deck, Sacred Cat, things like that, if you don't have critical mass of the right mix of creatures and cards that affect the board, like the cartouche or anything like that, it really can come back to bite you because it's just so hard to recoup card advantage from the situation. And as you can see, Kenji's just being kind of handily outclassed now by the creatures from John Finkel. And John's not even playing, what is traditionally a great creature pair here, right? Red and blue tend to have fine creatures, but they're not like the big green creatures or the things like that you expect yet. That's not slowing Finkel down at all. He's still just happily slamming here.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is normally if you told me I double mulligan with red-white, my goal would be, okay, I'm going to draw exactly 3 lands and win the game. But when you have things like supply caravan in your red-white deck, that just doesn't work. So it's like, this looks like a particularly bad red-white deck to mulligan with.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, supply caravan's a little short on glory, it turns out. Here's a Talkrop Elite, which is a fine play on turn 4 here for Kenji, but boy, is he really going to need to find a land next turn to not just be dead here.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Gale Strike not a good card at pushing through damage. It's not repulse.
Right, but limits of solidarity though could be a way for John to just steal the win here as well.
It's funny. It looked like he was going to have to cycle it because you mentioned he discarded a land in the Tormenting Voice and didn't draw another land. So, but the way it's played out, he's now drawn only land since then, essentially.
Yeah, I think he's considering if he wants to steal the Talkrop Elite or if he wants to wait. While Kenji's tapped out, there might be some merit to it.
He could also wait so he can attack with it and Gale Strike it.
That's true. That's cool too. And also he can, if he waits till next turn, he gets the Emberhorn Minotaur, which gets the pump as well and adds to the attack. He's really got Kenji in a bad spot here because he can be patient if he chooses to. And Kenji, it's not like Kenji can represent things. He can't just be like, go, like he's just falling behind on actual board here.
He gets, he has real blockers if he draws a hand.
Yeah, but unfortunately, those real blockers will jump ship over to John's side and attack. One thing is that John doesn't really have a great attack, at least straight up, with the Manticore of the Gauntlet here, as Kenji does have a pretty effective double block, able to put 6 toughness and 4 power in front of it, which is kind of the sweet spot there. And it looks like John's just going to be patient.
I think John... Obviously, you could represent some kind of trick there, but his hand is just too good. He can't.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think that John correctly recognized that Kenji would look at this as a situation where he doesn't have the luxury of playing around anything anyway, so he probably would just go for the risky block. And he would have. Kenji definitely would have gone for it.
So,
what is the cartouche targeting here?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's the flyer, not because there's some special strategic thing. It's just that you make your
diversifying. Yeah.
Yeah, you make your unblockable creature bigger and
and also, spreading it out, giving himself the most number of first strike means that if John's on empty, he actually does have blocks now that are effective. So Kenji's holding out hope, but this is going to be ugly.
This is the best I've seen this card be in
yeah, the best I've seen it up until this point is just cycling it.
Right. This is an extremely good use of this card.
I agreed.
Although it does lose the cartouche. You don't even have to Gale Strike it to lose the cartouche. That's nice.
Mm. And in comes the team. The exert is going to be in effect too. So what can actually happen here? Now all of a sudden...
Well, he's taking at least 8.
Yeah, he can chump block and then take 8 or 9.
Right, 9. Yeah, jeez. So he has
he just has to go for the obvious blocks. Go down to 1 here, and I think that after combat, John's going to make the play that you suggested too, and just return that Takrop Elite to Kenji's hand and not even give him a blocker back. That's a sweet play.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just nasty.
Or he could also Gale Strike his Minotaur thing, so he knows he's going to kill him with damage next turn.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's Manticore.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because is there anything in red white that gets him out of that? Oh, he's going to do it end of turn.
Yeah, if he wants to do his own Minotaur, I guess he just waits. Kenji draws a Vizier of Deferment, which it actually probably looks okay to him here. Because at least as the board sits, he's not scheduled to just be dead.
Right.
Oh, and one other interaction, by the way, we should have mentioned, Chris, is that, when the Takrop Elite gets stolen, the cartouche falls off of it.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking he was going to have to.
Yep.
I was trying to think
go ahead.
If John should have done that on his turn or something. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, Kenji could be like electrify this or whatever.
Yeah. I haven't been in that spot where I have it. That's an interesting play. So, I don't know if there's a real reason for John to wait. Because he's at such a high life total, it's not like he was going to lose to anything. I don't think.
Right. Even a trial of solidarity wouldn't get the job done there. I don't think. All right. Well, players are going to sideboards, and we get our first look at the decks in whole.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, John got my synchronized strike. How dare he?
Oh, so you are green white. Okay, that was the other option. Yeah, tough draft. I mean, I'm guessing the thing that really hurt us this draft was just that. Yeah, I just should have taken the Liliana's Mastery away from Paul.
Why is that? Is that a good card or?
Yeah, that might have been my mistake. It was just I was getting such a good card from my deck, and I wasn't. It was a little tough to tell what Paul was drafting.
Well, we'll get Kenji to pop out that graveyard, though. It looks like he's got a keeper here. Still, no 2-drop, but he's on the play, and if he wants, he can cycle the Winged Shepherd and try to find one. What about John's hand? Looks fine, too. Yeah, these are just two good hands.
Yeah. I mean, nothing exciting, like nothing super, but exactly what you want. And it's harder to get those like really nasty aggro hands in these 6-man drafts.
Yeah, I think that in general, I would probably, hey, he did it. I would, I would downgrade the power level of like these white-red decks a bit for this type of format. And I already view them as fairly fragile. They're not the most resilient, consistent decks to start with. So, that is a significant hit to those type of decks. Yeah,
that's actually part of why I drafted the way I did, was because I was like, look, I'm just going to take these rares and not. I'm going to downgrade the archetype qualities of the elite archetypes, and I'm going to take these rares and see what happens. I
just more like rearrange them in my mind, like the ones that I felt were more middle ground with deeper colors that were less reliant on specific sequences and draws or that kind of thing, and just kind of were like, here's a bunch of creatures. They're pretty good at blocking, they're pretty good at attacking, and I have some combat tricks or whatever. That was at least, I upgraded those a bit over the more fragile archetypes. I don't know if it worked.
Yeah, Williams is talking about passing you that white trial.
What about it?
Well, Williams is saying, that I took a pretty average card over White Trial, but the problem was I thought there
Did you
was.
already get a hold of the viewer or something? We're getting smoked already. Oh dear God! And so it begins.
Yeah, but I basically, there was a magma spray. I thought there was a decent chance you were red-white. And I'm like, well, if I take the trial, now you're just going to get a magma spray. And I don't know. That was tough. I wasn't happy about it.
Well, Kenji's able to stay on the front foot here, though it does look like Finkel's hand is pretty decent with the magma spray and a bunch of 4-drops in his hand here. He could certainly go for the magma spray just to get that Thresher Lizard off the battlefield as soon as possible. And and if he does, he can still cast his Emberhorn Minotaur or his Aven Initiate if he wants to keep developing his board out here. And that seems like a pretty good turn for Finkel. Just get rid of a 3-drop for 1 mana and add a 4-drop to your board. It's hard to argue with that.
It is real hard to argue with that.
Yeah. He's going to have to consider Jeru's Resolve here, but if he passes the turn back, he gets opened up to a few more combat tricks.
Yeah, basically anything. Even
yeah. Yeah, +2/+2 and flying, for example. So he's going to go ahead and just take the risk here and do it. It makes perfect sense. And Kenji has a pretty good hand himself. Curious to see if he wants to use his Electrify here just to kill the Emberhorn Minotaur and get in for 4 points of damage. Seems like a fine sequence as well. Yeah, it looks like that's what he's going to do. Oh, he's actually going to try to use Impeccable Timing. I think he's going to keep it conservative. That makes sense too.
Yeah,
it guarantees that he gets an extra point of damage.
Use this mana better too.
It does. Though I have to say, the thought of getting John to block and using Impeccable Timing to kill an Emberhorn Minotaur, that's pretty tempting as well.
Yeah, it's just I guess he's just, he only really has to get his opponent down to 3. So he's thinking if I can cast 2 spells next turn.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And this does set him up if he draws a land to do that or cast the Manticore.
Oh boy. Ceridon coming down.
Oh, wow. He hit a land. So Desert Ceridon comes in. This is one of the downsides to the Electrify play is that Kenji doesn't currently have an answer for it.
Not that many cards that punish you. And this is like the most punishing,
Yeah. He can set up a play here, though, because he drew a land where he can let first strike damage happen on the Desert Ceridon and then Impeccable Timing it. Or if the Warrior gets blocked, he can just say, sure, Warrior down, Impeccable Timing. Those are both probably favorable trades for Kenji, and then he can lean on that Vizier of Deferment to maybe save him some damage.
Yeah, I think John probably I was going to say he might just not block. But
there's a lot of things that Kenji can have here. He's getting a, whatever you want to call it, a 1.5 for 1 if he blocks. But he is losing to Desert Ceridon. It's no small shakes there, but his life total is falling pretty quickly down to 8. And now John's kind of in an interesting position himself. Looks like he wants to keep the attacks flowing here. He's going to untap his Nefkrop Entangler and go for another exerted attack. And this is probably all the excuse Kenji needs to just go ahead and fire off the Deferment. No, he's not going to do it. Interesting. I wonder what he's saving it for.
Yeah, I don't know, especially because
he might just be firing it off on end step. No, he's just going to keep it in his hand.
I guess maybe he's going to use it to blink his Manticore.
Yeah, that is a possible late game plan. It's a little bit more convoluted, but like now look at it, right? He just got John down to 6, and now Kenji's game plan looks really good because he's going to get him down to 3, and then over the course of the next 2 turns, he can blink bounce the angel. Excuse me, next turn he can bounce the Manticore and then kill John. Oh, Deem Worthy off the top, though, for Finkel. And that is going to make things very difficult for Kenji, because if he does go for that play with the Manticore, John can simply respond. He also could just kill the Manticore with Deem Worthy right now. Oh, man. This is a good game. That Deem Worthy was a good one.
It does seem like he's really likely to kill that Manticore right now.
It does. He just has to be so worried. He has to leave something back to block that Nimble Blade Kenra just because any spell.
But it's so easy to leave back the 1/3, right? I mean,
yeah, definitely. The 1/3 is a great blocker too because it can block itself, but if it were to get interfered with in some way, it can untap another blocker instead. It looks like John's going to play conservatively here and leave the Aven Initiate back as well.
That is real conservative.
Oh, but look at this. If John goes for the... Oh, man, this is sweet. So if John goes block your Manticore with Aven Initiate...
Oh, no. So he's going to get blown out here.
You'll get him, yeah. So let's see what happens here because Cartouche of Zeal... This is really interesting because John actually needs to cast this now. If he waits until attacks, it's too late.
Well, John's dead.
Oh, but he's hitting the Nimble Blade Kenra, so that is going to do it. So really smart play from Kenji there to kind of bait that out of Finkel. And now all Kenji needs to do is just get that Manticore sideways, and it doesn't even matter how blocks go. The Vizier of Deferment will finish it. Wow, what a sweet game. Man, that was insane. Kenji with the Cartouche draw to entice Finkel to use his removal spell on the creature that Kenji did not want to die.
I've never seen that play before. That's this blink your Manticore with the Vizier.
So cool. Yeah. He had him at 8. He knew he needed to get that 1 hit in for the 2 damage, and he did. And then he knew that this was going to be his game plan. Yeah. Wow. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I think
Kenji evens things up.
The chat's saying I'm salty. Man, I'm totally not salty. I'm really just vexed.
Yeah, they think everybody's salty. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had 2 big drafts where I could have countergraphed and I didn't, and it feels like both were mistakes. Yeah, and Paul did win.
Good news. So Paul Cheon has won his match against Jamie Park, and now it's on Kenji. Yeah, it was funny when we did our deck build. Both of them have decks that look kind of like normal decks. Like Paul's looks kind of like a normal deck, but way better. And Kenji's looks like kind of like a normal deck, but a bit worse. And mine does not look like a normal deck.
Oh, yeah?
I kind of took a little bit more of the Ben Stark approach, I think, at least for part of it. And yeah, we're a little more all over the map.
Well, that makes me feel better about what I did.
Yeah. I mean, I think of like when I look back at the viewer, a lot of the picks will look pretty straightforward, but I definitely was trying to be proactive about hate drafting when I could. I wasn't trying to get cute with the whole like, oh, I'm going to hook and cut. I was just like trying to really read, what I felt was going on around me and then react to that. So I was trying to take like a bigger picture approach to it. I can't wait to see what actually happened, just like looking back, just because like it's so hard to do this and just not know if you're correct the whole entire time you're doing it.
When did you go into green?
You'll see, but I put you in green in pack 1, and I had picked up the Decimator Beetle that I think I got it 3rd from you. And so I figured if you're in green, I'm just going to cut the living hell out of you, the living Cheon out of you. And so in pack 2, I just snatched up every green card I could.
Oh, I gave you Decimator Beetle.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you took Decimator Beetle after you took Dustwalker.
I did.
Wow. All right. So this is that kind of why I didn't take. Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I obviously had no idea what your first pick was, which I can see now before we play. But all right, I guess we should talk about this game here.
Why isn't the Sacred Cat on the battlefield? It looks like Kenji's just trying to maximize on Ronus's monument rather than getting the cat down. That's
more damage.
Yeah, it's more damage, I think, in his mind, so he's just going for it. But this is going to work out pretty poorly here for Kenji. Deem Worthy being cycled with the trigger on the stack from the monument is going to just kill the Binding Mummy and mean that Kenji doesn't get in for any damage at all this turn.
If he had a brute strength or whatever right there, it would have been instead of impeccable timing, because I feel like those are cards that are very
Oh, it would have been
like
insane.
what an insane blowout that would have been.
It would have been absurd, yeah. He would have got in for 7 rather than 0.
Yeah. And then we lose the cat forever.
Yeah, cat's gone. And John's really setting up here. Next turn, he's going to slam Desert Ceradon as well. And this one could be slipping away from Kenji.
Kenji mulligan once, right?
I didn't see.
I think it was still mulligan.
So he's going to go with Binding Mummy, and then he's going to throw the cartouche on it to try to stabilize the ground, which this does actually do. So that's not too bad for Kenji.
Yep. I don't think John has that much more removal on his deck. So
yeah, he's already used his Deem Worthy and his Magma Spray. So this actually isn't super bad for Kenji. The first strike on that Binding Mummy is a real issue because John can go like Desert Ceradon pass, but Kenji has impeccable timing, and he can combine that with first strike to kill any of the threats. And he's also got a Cartouche of Zeal, which he can use to make the Binding Mummy have 4 power if he feels like that's what he needs to do. I think he's going to save it, but
I don't know. It's so hard to.
He's thinking about it now. Yeah, he's going to just run it out there.
I think this means this lets him where he doesn't have to use the timing to block the Ceradon if he doesn't want to. Maybe he's going to go aggro because he's like, you know what? I have the Manticore. I have this Monument that only works on offense. Oh, wow.
Yeah, see, this attack makes more sense to me because if he turns the Binding Mummy sideways, I think John just pretty happily can just block with the Talkrop Skirmisher.
I agree.
The Justice Bloodlust Insider, the turn 7 Bloodlust Insider.
Yeah, that's not a good draw.
not what he not when he wanted to see it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you're supposed to draw that before you draw the Ceradon.
Right. Well, this could though make John's future top decks a little bit scarier as Kenji's really just hanging on by a thread here.
You know what card is going to be real bad this game?
What's that?
The Threatened, whatever that card's called.
Oh, yeah, Limits of Solidarity. Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah,
really,
that would probably just be game if he drew it in the next turn or two, but we'll see.
Monument on defense is
yeah,
tough. Because on the play, I understand. I wonder if he bordered down on the draw. I didn't notice.
I'm not sure either. Interesting, though, that both players have kind of situational aggressive cards in their deck, and neither are able to really use them the way that they want at this stage of the game. So they're kind of relying on the cards, their creatures to sort of pull them through. And so far, it's working, at least for Kenji. He hit a land here, too, so he can play the Manticore.
Yeah, now we're basically just top decking.
Yeah. Still, Kenji's, that Binding Mummy is like a lot riding on that Binding Mummy right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many more of these top deck wars there are in this format than the previous one.
Yeah, you were busy finishing the game much sooner.
Yeah. It's interesting because this format's viewed as like an aggro format. And I mean, I think the last one was too, but...
Agreed.
But...
yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, right? I mean, it's not a realistic thing to even say that a format is aggressive, right? It's just, you're really just noting that you are not unlikely to face a deck that can beat you, by turn 6 or 7 or whatever. But there's also 4 other archetypes that you can draft that aren't that. It's just, you have to be aware that could happen.
The previous format didn't have great control archetypes. It really
That's true. That is true. This one doesn't have great control archetypes, but it does have good mid-range decks, I think.
Right. I mean, like, you can get the blue-black cycling deck, and it plays like a control deck, right? Like,
yeah, it tries to.
It tries to. The problem is it's one of the weaker archetypes. The previous format, I don't even know. I feel like, that is a...
Oh, baby. Wow. I don't think he can end the game with that.
No,
but he can use that to punch through a decent chunk of damage here, can't he?
Yeah, drawing that on a turn where impeccable timing is turned off is pretty big.
Oh, yeah.
But he still can't,
Yeah, it doesn't win him the game. Like, if he plays it even on the Desert Ceradon, Kenji can just chump with the Warrior.
I think he's probably going to... Well, I guess getting the Ceradon up to 5 tough... This is tricky, because if he gets a Ceradon up to 5 toughness, then he's like, okay, now it's not blockable by either of those creatures.
That's true.
But at the same time, he could put it on the Skirmisher And now the skirmisher can attack this turn because now it's big enough to kill either the Manticore and it can't be blocked by the warrior. So maybe it gets through more damage if he puts it on the top crop skirmisher rather than the Ceradon.
The cool part is we get to find out the correct answer.
It's true.
As we're watching John play. Let's see what he does. Right, he's going for the Ceradon. Now, what is he going to target? Is it the mummy?
It's got to be the mummy.
Yeah, that does open up the attack from his other creatures. Though the warrior chump blocking the Ceradon's probably
well, no, I think that he will attack with the skirmisher here because that keeps the Manticore and the warrior for trading for the Ceradon, right? Just attacks with
Yes. He could. Kenji could just put the Manticore and the warrior in front of the Ceradon and trade them off. He would take 6 damage here. That's not the worst case scenario. Kenji also could chump block the warrior on the Ceradon and eat either the top crop skirmisher or more likely the Bloodlust Insider with his Manticore. He could take a bunch of damage here and maintain the warrior. He's actually got a lot of options. This is not an easy situation here.
No, I think
it really depends on what Kenji prioritizes as threats and also how much he thinks he can get out of impeccable timing. I think the time for playing around cards, because remember, if you're in Kenji's seat, you're looking and John has 2 cards in hand, probably isn't here anymore. He may just need to make the blocks that he thinks, give him the most upside no matter what. And it looks like he's going to go for that.
I like this block.
These are the blocks I would have made. It maintains his life total the highest and gets what is actually a somewhat annoying creature off the board with the Insider.
Oh, I agree. I like this. I'm actually, I guess it's correct to attack with Insider.
It did get Kenji down to 9.
I'm not sure it's even correct to attack with Insider because you don't care if he kills your skirmisher. You just don't care.
No, you do
Nothing
not.
else.
Yeah,
so
you would sack that thing for any amount of damage at this point, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you're not that likely to. Oh, Kenji really wishes that Monument made that Minotaur cheaper, but it does not.
Now he's going to get in for 6 here. And he does not have the mana for impeccable timing. Pictures of the Dead off the top for Finkel. He's been top decking at least a couple of spells here the last 3 or 4 turns, but they're not the ones he really wants.
So this is where putting the cartouche on the Ceradon is really huge, right?
Yeah. Kenji may just have to take this. He may just have to be like, YOLO, hope you don't kill me.
Yeah, I feel like given his position in this game, he probably does have to take it. He can't really afford to chump block with creatures that good, right?
No, I don't think he can. If he just starts throwing away Emberhorn Minotaurs for 6 damage, it's not going to end up well for him. Plus, the Minotaur is a very useful attacker here.
Oh, yeah, John's at 8.
Yeah, he hit him for 6 last turn. It was no joke. Yeah, I mean, Kenji's not going to be happy about this. He's gonna probably not block and then start screaming, "Hold the baby."
Yeah, but with
which is kind of what I'm screaming in my head.
With that Monument in play, I mean, it seems like especially because I think it might just kill him.
It's just a question of how much risk does Kenji want to take on here.
I think he absolutely can't block.
I do too.
So with trample plus impeccable timing is pretty insane too, right? So that's game, I think.
He drew a battlefield scavenger. Yeah, he can get. You know what? I think if he puts John on having nothing in hand.
Oh, he just wins because
he can just win.
Timing is good enough.
Wow. Is Kenji about to win this match here? This has been an incredibly close game. Really fun to watch.
Yeah, the one big creature, the 4/4 first strike, was just too. I mean, John drew like the best card against it, and it still wasn't enough. Got him to 2. Yeah, the Monument ended up being a decent card. It got through a lot of damage.
So what happens if Kenji just attacks with everything and exerts the Minotaur here?
I just don't think there's any way for John not to die. And you know Kenji's going to attack with everything because of the trample. So,
and also because it's Kenji.
What is that, his style? Attack with everything?
Yeah, and the menace on the Emberhorn Minotaur means that Kenji can just fire off impeccable timing on the Watchers of the Dead here, and that actually gets him through.
What did he?
And there we go. Actually, it was lethal on its own anyway.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Kenji wins. Holy smokes! That was I mean, like you said, you know, him making a 4/4 first striker and just being like, don't die or get removed or anything for any period of time is a risky play. Kenji knows it. I mean, I'm not saying that he took on unnecessary risk. I'm just saying he couldn't have been confident that game plan was going to work out for the next 5 or 6 turns or whatever, but it actually did. It held off that whole entire board from Finkel, and Kenji was able to get that last damage through. Wow.
It's decent colors to make that play against, right?
I mean, the thing he didn't want to see was, of course, any type of removal that could kill it, you know, an Electrify or something like that. But also, you know, a card like an Aven Initiate there would have looked pretty good, right? Like at some point, Kenji ended up losing his Reach Minotaur, and he just, you know, he could get clocked in the air while he sits on the ground with no reasonable attacks, you know, because he needed to keep his 4/4 back on defense. But John couldn't find it. He drew some lands and really just kind of the bottom part of his deck down the stretch there, and it caught up with him, and Kenji was able to just sneak in that damage and win. So, wow, that's actually, our team is now up 2 matches to 0 somehow after the first one. You said you don't really like your deck, though, right? Like, you're not happy with that.
My deck's okay. It's just I passed.
You're not happy with your situation.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, my deck is decent for the archetype it is, but it's not a great archetype. And yeah, I don't know. It was a tough draft, and of course, I imagined that. I think Paul's deck is going to be even worse than I was worried about, but you and Kenji's decks are probably not as good as I was worried about.
Yeah. I think that's accurate because Paul's deck is absurd. I'll just tell you that right now. You're going to get a chance to see the list, but his deck is fantastic. And my deck is, I think, the worst of the 3 by like 1 notch down. And Kenji's deck is somewhere in the middle, probably, if I had to rank them.
Right. So, you know, our decks are not great. So, and my deck could play out. I haven't drafted many decks like my deck, so I'm not sure how it's going to play out.
Okay. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this round. So we have some messages. Is that right, Athena? Okay, so we've got some messages, but when we come back, we're going to have more action here from the Team Draft Super League. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.